I'm Amelia. I'm 33 years old, and I need to tell you something that still keeps me up at night. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones who hurt you. Most.it started with a phone call on a Tuesday morning in March. I was at my desk in Seattle when my phone buzzed. Mom, I almost didn't answer because Tuesday mornings were when she usually called to complain about trivial things. And I was exhausted from being the emotional dumping ground for problems I couldn't fix from 300 miles away, but I answered anyway. Because that's what you do when you're the responsible one. Amelia, honey, I'm so glad I caught you. Her voice had that sugary quality that immediately put me on edge. The tone she used when she wanted something. Hey, Mom, what's going on? Well, your father and I were talking, and Jasmine is having such a hard time right now. You know how it is with her. She just can't seem to catch a break. Jasmine, my younger sister by 4 years. 29 years old and still living like she was 21, floating from one crisis to another while everyone scrambled to catch her when she fell. What happened now? I tried to keep the edge out of my voice. Her roommate kicked her out. Can you believe it? Over some silly misunderstanding about rent. Your sister is devastated. She's been staying on our couch for 2 weeks. I knew where this was going. Your father and I were thinking, you have that beautiful house in Seattle, 3 bedrooms, and you're all alone in it. My stomach dropped. We were just thinking Jasmine could stay with you for a little while, just until she gets back on her feet. Mom, I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? You have the space, because Jasmine and I are adults with different lifestyles. I work from home. I need quiet and routine. And honestly, every time Jasmine stays somewhere temporarily, it turns into months. That's not fair, Amelia. Your sister is going through a difficult time. Jasmine is always going through a difficult time. Silence. The kind that felt like disappointment packaged and delivered straight through the phone line. I can't believe how selfish you're being. We're family. Family helps each other. I help all the time, Mom. I sent her money last year. I paid for her dental work. I'm not being selfish. I'm setting a boundary. A boundary. She said it like it was a dirty word. We went back and forth for another 10 minutes. She tried guilt. She tried manipulation. She even said Dad's blood pressure was up from the stress, as if that was my responsibility to fix. I held firm. I said no. When I hung up, my hands were shaking. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 3 days later, my father called. Amelia, your mother is very upset. He said without preamble, Hi, Dad. I'm fine, thanks for asking. He sighed. Don't be difficult. She's hurt that you won't help your sister. I'm not being difficult. I'm being responsible for my own life. Your mother and I talked it over. If you won't let Jasmine stay with you, then we're going to make arrangements ourselves. What does that mean? It means we're her parents, and we're going to make sure she has a roof over her head. A chill ran down my spine. Dad, please don't push this. We'll talk later, he said, and hung up. For 2 weeks, there was radio silence. I told myself it was fine. They were angry, but they'd get over it. Jasmine would find another solution. I threw myself into work, trying not to think about the knot of guilt in my stomach. The house felt bigger than usual those weeks. I'd bought it 2 years ago after a promotion. 3 bedrooms, hardwood floors. I'd refinished myself. It was mine. The first thing that was truly, completely mine, but something had been shifting in me. Seattle was expensive and exhausting. I'd been having daydreams about something different. Maybe the East Coast. Maybe a smaller city where I could breathe. Those were just dreams, though. Until the day I came home and found my parents' car in my driveway. It was a Thursday afternoon. I'd finished work early. When I pulled onto my street, I saw it immediately. My dad's silver Honda, parked behind my car like it belonged there. My heart started pounding. I parked and walked to my front door. It was unlocked. Open a crack. Hello? I called out, pushing the door open. Oh, Amelia, you're home early. My mother's voice came from the kitchen. I walked through my own front door like a stranger. Mom appeared wearing an apron I didn't recognize, flour on her hands. What are you doing here? I asked. Making cookies. I thought it would be a nice surprise. How did you get in? Oh, your spare key. You left it with us ages ago, remember? That was true. I'd given them a spare key when I first moved in. But this wasn't an emergency. Where's Dad? Upstairs with Jasmine. They're setting up her room. The world tilted. Her room? Mom smiled. That bright, brittle smile. The guest room. Jasmine always loved blue. I took the stairs two at a time. My heart was hammering. The door to the guest room was open. Inside, Dad was assembling a bed frame. Jasmine was hanging curtains, humming. What the hell is going on? They both turned. Jasmine's face lit up. Amelia. Surprise! Mom and Dad said you changed your mind. I'm so grateful. I didn't change my mind. The smile faltered. What? I looked at my father. What did you tell her? Dad set down his screwdriver. He looked tired, old. We told her you agreed. Because it's the right thing to do. So you just decided for me. And let yourselves into my house. And moved her in. We're family, Amelia. Mom had appeared behind me. You're being dramatic. Get out. Silence. Excuse me? Mom's voice went icy. Get out of my house. All of you. Right now. Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. I can't believe you're doing this. I have nowhere to go. That's not my problem. How can you say that? I'm your sister. And this is my house. My house that I bought with my money, with my work. You don't get to just move in because Mom and Dad decided it's convenient. We did this for you too, Dad said quietly, so you wouldn't be alone. Something in me snapped. I don't want family close by. I don't want to spend the next 6 months supporting Jasmine while she figures out her life for the 100th time. I want my own life. The words hung in the air. Mom's face went red. Fine, we'll leave. But don't come crying to us when you realize how lonely you are. When you realize you pushed away everyone who ever cared about you. They packed up in silence. Dad disassembled the bed with angry movements. Jasmine cried loudly the whole time. Mom didn't look at me. When they were gone, I locked the door, changed the locks that same night. And then I sat on my floor and cried harder than I'd cried in years. Drop your city in the comments. Let's see how far this story travels. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. 2 days later, texts started coming from Jasmine. I can't believe you're really going to let me be homeless. Mom says you don't care if I end up on the street. I didn't respond. Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. If something happens to him, it's on you. I blocked her number. Mom called from different numbers. You're breaking your father's heart. I hung up. The messages kept coming. Different numbers, different angles, guilt, manipulation, anger, and somewhere in all of it, sitting alone in my house that suddenly felt like a crime scene, I made a decision. I called a real estate agent. Her name was Patricia. She had gray hair and a sleek bob and an efficiency I found comforting. She came over that Saturday, walked through my house, and gave me a number. The market's hot right now. You could list on Monday and have offers by Wednesday. Are you sure about this? I wasn't sure about anything, but I nodded. I'm sure. We listed it Monday. By Tuesday, I had 3 offers. By Thursday, I'd accepted one, a young couple expecting their first baby. They offered $10,000 over asking and wanted to close in 3 weeks. I said yes. The next 2 weeks were a blur. Packing, organizing, deciding what to keep. Every box I taped shut felt like shedding skin. It hurt, but it felt necessary. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell anyone except my boss, who agreed to let me go fully remote. I found a short-term rental in Boston, far enough from Seattle and Portland that I could breathe. Start over. The closing was scheduled for a Tuesday. On the Saturday before, Patricia called. Someone came by the house this morning. A woman. She said she was your sister and had permission to be there. She had a key. My blood went cold. She tried to use it, but it didn't work. The locks were changed. She was yelling at the new buyers during their walkthrough. She told them the house wasn't for sale, that you'd promised it to her. What did you do? I called the police to escort her off the property. I wanted to give you a heads up. I checked my email. There it was. From my mother. Amelia, we need to talk. We made arrangements for Jasmine. We gave her the spare key and told her she could move in next week. She's been packing. She's been planning. You need to call off this ridiculous sale and honor your commitment to family. I read it 3 times. I'd never made any commitment. They'd made it for me. I wrote back one line. The house sold. The new owners take possession Tuesday. Do not contact me again. Then I blocked every number, every email, every avenue they had to reach me. The day I closed on the house was gray and drizzly. I met the buyers Jennifer and Marcus at the title company. They were bright-eyed and nervous, holding hands. We're so excited, Jennifer said, her hand on her baby bump. This is our first house. I smiled. It's a good house. You'll be happy there. The signing took 45 minutes. Each page felt like closing a chapter. When it was done, I handed over the keys. I should have felt scared. Instead, I felt light. Lighter than I'd felt in years. That night, I got a call from another unknown number. Curiosity got the better of me. Hello? You vindictive, selfish bitch. Jasmine's voice, shaking with rage. How did you get this number? It doesn't matter. What matters is that you sold my house. Mom and Dad promised me that house. It was never your house, Jasmine. It was mine. I bought it. I paid for it. And I can sell it whenever I want. You knew I was counting on it. No, Mom and Dad told you that without asking me. That's not the same thing. You're destroying this family. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just not letting you destroy me anymore. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm done. Done being the responsible one who fixes everyone's problems. Done being the bank, the backup plan, the emotional dumping ground. Done setting myself on fire to keep everyone else warm. Silence. I could hear her breathing ragged. Where are you going? She asked finally, genuinely scared. Boston. What's in Boston? I don't know yet. That's the point. Amelia. Her voice got small. Young. What am I supposed to do? Part of me wanted to fix it. But I didn't. You're 29 years old, Jasmine. You're supposed to figure it out. Just like I had to. I hung up. This time. I didn't feel guilty. Boston in April was cold and rainy and nothing like Seattle. The rental I'd found was in Cambridge, a tiny one-bedroom above a bookstore. It was perfect. I spent the first week just wandering, walking, sitting in coffee shops, watching people live their lives. I worked during the day, but the evenings were mine. No one knew me here. No one had expectations. I could be myself. 3 weeks in, Detective Sarah Okafor from Portland Police called. Your parents filed a complaint claiming you stole property, specifically a house. I pulled the records. The house was solely in your name. We're closing the complaint as unfounded. But your parents seemed insistent. Your mother mentioned pursuing legal action. For what? I didn't do anything illegal. No, ma'am. But family disputes get ugly. I wanted you to be aware. Thank you. One more thing. Your sister was arrested last week for trespassing at the property. The new owners caught her trying to enter through a back window. She told officers it was her house. She was released but seemed unwell, not grounded in reality. I closed my eyes. Is she okay? Physically, yes. Officers recommended mental health resources. She refused. When I hung up, I sat on a bench processing. The weeks turned into months. Spring became summer. I stopped jumping every time my phone rang. I made friends, real friends who liked me for who I was now. I went to therapy. Dr. Rosen helped me understand what I'd experienced had a name. Parentification. Being made responsible for my sister from a young age had shaped me. You were never allowed to just be a child, she said. You were always the parent. And now you're learning to just be yourself. I cried in her office more times than I could count. But slowly, I started to recognize myself in the mirror. In July, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line. I'm sorry, Amelia. This is Jasmine. I'm using a friend's email. I'm not writing to ask for anything. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I got into a program. Court-ordered therapy after the trespassing thing. My therapist has been helping me see how messed up our family dynamics were. How much Mom and Dad enabled me. How much I took advantage of you. I got a job, just retail. But it's stable. I'm living in a sober house, working the steps. Turns out I had more problems than just being irresponsible. Mom and Dad still aren't talking to you. Mom tells everyone you abandoned the family. Dad just looks sad. I hope you're happy. I hope Boston is everything you wanted. I hope you're finally putting yourself first. You deserve that. Read it 3 times. Then I went for a walk along the Charles River. I didn't write back. Not then. Maybe not ever. But I didn't delete it either. In September, I made a decision. I'd been remote at a stable but unfulfilling job for 6 months. One morning, I realized I didn't want stable. I wanted something I'd chosen. I gave notice. I started freelancing, building websites, designing apps. I wasn't making as much, but I was making enough. And I was making something mine. I moved to a bigger apartment in November. I bought plants. I bought art. I refinished a kitchen table myself. I built a life. And it was mine. In December, almost 9 months after leaving Seattle, I got a letter. Paper, postage, my parents' return address. Inside was a single sheet. My mother's handwriting. Amelia, your father is sick. Heart problems. Surgery next week. He keeps asking for you. He says he has things he needs to say. I know you don't owe us anything. I know we hurt you. I'm just asking you to come. For him. Please. Mommy sat with that letter for 3 days. In the end, I bought a plane ticket. The hospital in Portland smelled of industrial cleaner and fear. I found his room on the cardiac floor. Mom was in the hallway, looking smaller than I remembered. When she saw me, her face crumpled. Amelia, thank you for coming. How is he? Stable. The surgery went well. I went in. Dad was hooked up to machines that beeped steadily. He looked old. His eyes opened when I sat down. Amelia, you came. I came. I'm sorry. His voice cracked. For all of it. For not standing up for you. For expecting you to sacrifice yourself. I'm sorry. I wanted to be angry. But looking at him, frail and scared, and finally seeing me, I just felt tired. I needed to hear that. Thank you. You were right. To leave. To set boundaries. I see that now. He coughed. Your mother doesn't. But I do. Is Jasmine here? She visited yesterday. She's trying, Amelia. Really trying. Rock bottom was good for her. She's working. She's sober. She's angry at us now instead of at you. I almost smiled. Good. I don't expect you to come back. But I wanted you to know I love you. That I'm proud of you. That I should have said that more. You're not dying, Dad. Not today. But someday. He reached for my hand. Don't waste your life trying to make other people happy. I did that. It's not worth it. I squeezed his hand. I'm learning that. I stayed 2 days. I had a stilted conversation with Mom that didn't resolve anything but cleared the air. I had coffee with Jasmine, and for the first time in our lives, we talked like adults. I hated you for a long time, she said. But my therapist says I didn't hate you. I hated that you were everything I wasn't. I wasn't happy, though. Yeah, I'm starting to get that. She looked up, eyes clear. I'm starting to get how much I took from you. How I was never really your sister, I was your project. Jasmine, it's true. I thought I was the victim. But everyone expected nothing from me. And I delivered exactly that. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she continued. I'm just saying. I get it now. Why you left. And I'm sorry I made you feel like you had to burn your life down to get away. I didn't burn it down, I said softly. I rebuilt it. There's a difference. She smiled, sad and small. Yeah, I'm learning about that too. I flew back to Boston on Wednesday. My phone buzzed as we landed. A text from Dad. Thank you for coming. It meant everything. You don't owe us anything else. Be happy, kiddo. I typed back. I'm working on it. And I was. Winter came to Boston. I bought a small Christmas tree for the first time in my life and decorated it with ornaments I picked out myself. On Christmas Eve, I had dinner with friends. Maya and Alex, a couple I'd met at a design meetup. To chosen family, Maya said, raising her glass. We clinked glasses, and I felt something settle in my chest. Something that felt like home. Later that night, alone in my apartment, I stood by the window watching snowfall. My phone sat silent behind me, just peace. I thought about the house in Seattle. I hoped Jennifer and Marcus were happy there. I thought about my parents, about Jasmine, about all the years I'd spent trying to be enough. And I realized I was enough. I always had been. I just hadn't known it. In January, something unexpected happened. I was at a coffee shop when a woman sat nearby. We started talking. She ran a nonprofit arts education for underprivileged kids. They needed a website designer. I'll do it for cost, I heard myself say. If you can feature it in my portfolio. Her name was Diane. That meeting turned into 3 months of work that turned into a job offer. By March, I was creative director for the nonprofit. It didn't pay like tech, but I woke up excited to go to work. I watched kids find their voice through art. And God, it felt good. On the 1-year anniversary of leaving Seattle, I threw a small party. Maya cornered me in the kitchen. You seem different. Lighter. I feel different. Good different? Yeah, good different. Later, after everyone left, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Amelia? It's Jasmine. My heart did something complicated. Hey, I hope it's okay I'm calling. I wanted to tell you something. Okay. I got a promotion to assistant manager, and I got my own apartment. A studio, but it's mine. I signed the lease, paid the deposit. I did it myself. I felt tears prick my eyes. Jasmine, that's amazing. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I wanted you to know I'm trying. That what you did leaving, setting boundaries, it helped me. It forced me to grow up. So, thank you. We talked for an hour. Really talked. Not about the past, just about our lives now. When we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not hope we'd go back to how things were, but hope that maybe we could build something new. Something honest. Spring came again. My second in Boston. The trees burst into bloom. At work, I met with a new student, Ava, 15, from foster care. She sat across from me, arms crossed. I don't need art therapy. Good thing this isn't therapy. It's just art. What's the point? The point is that sometimes you need to create something just because you can. Because it's yours. Because nobody can take it away. She looked at me, and I saw recognition in her eyes. Can I paint whatever I want? Anything. Even if it's angry? Especially if it's angry. She painted for 3 hours. Dark, violent slashes that slowly resolved into something beautiful. It's mine, she said softly. It's yours. I confirmed. And I thought about how sometimes letting go is the only way to hold on to yourself. That night, I stood in my apartment and realized something. I wasn't running anymore. I was just living on my own terms, by my own rules, for my own reasons. My parents had tried to give my sister the keys to my house without asking me, but I'd already sold that house. I'd already moved on. I'd already chosen myself, and in doing that, I'd found freedom. Not freedom from responsibility or consequence, but freedom to be myself, fully, completely, unapologetically myself. The kind of freedom you can't inherit or borrow or steal, the kind you have to claim for yourself. One hard decision at a time. 2 years after leaving Seattle, I got an invitation. Jasmine Chen requests the honor of your presence at her commitment ceremony. I arfed yes. The ceremony was in Portland, at a small garden venue. Jasmine wore a simple white dress and looked genuinely happy. Her partner, Sophie, had kind eyes. Mom and Dad were there, older and quieter. Mom hugged me. Thank you for coming. I've been in therapy, working on things. I'm sorry, Amelia. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I'm sorry. I looked at her and saw someone who was trying. I'm working on forgiveness. It takes time. I know. Take all the time you need. Jasmine's vows talked about learning to show up for herself. About learning that love isn't about being saved, it's about being seen. She looked at me when she said it. I smiled. After, Dad pulled me aside. Your mother and I are moving to Arizona, a retirement community. A fresh start for us too. That sounds nice. I'm glad you came. I know it wasn't easy. It was the right thing to do. I hugged him. He felt fragile. I love you, Dad. I love you too, kiddo. 3 years after selling the house, I bought a new one. A small brownstone in Cambridge. 2 bedrooms, a garden, a reading nook. I closed on a Tuesday. But this time was different. This time, nobody had a key but me. This time, I wasn't running from anything. I was running towards something. The day I moved in, I sat on my empty living room floor and cried. Relief, joy, freedom. My phone buzzed. Jasmine, heard you bought a house. Proud of you, sis. Can I visit sometime? I promise I won't try to move in. I laughed through tears. Yeah, you can visit. Let me get settled first. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. And she wasn't. None of them were. My family was still there, still messy, but at a safe distance, a healthy distance, and I was here, in my house, in my life, in my peace, living. Finally, beautifully living. On my own terms. If you'd asked me 5 years ago if I'd be here successful, happy, free, I would have said no. But here I am. Maybe you see yourself in this story. Maybe you're the one who always fixes things, who always gives, who always sacrifices. If you are, I want you to know, you're allowed to choose yourself. You're allowed to set boundaries, even with people you love. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to sell the house, even when someone else thought they had the keys. You're allowed to build a life that's yours. It won't be easy. People will call you selfish. They'll say you're destroying the family. But here's the truth. You don't owe anyone your peace. You don't owe anyone your mental health. You don't owe anyone your life. What you owe yourself is the chance to live authentically, fully, freely. I'm Amelia. I'm 36 now. I live in Cambridge. I run a nonprofit. I have friends who chose me. I have a sister I'm rebuilding a relationship with slowly, carefully, on new terms. I have parents who are trying, who finally see me. But most importantly, I have myself. And that's the key that matters most. The one nobody can take away. The one that opens the door to a life worth living. My life. Finally, completely unapologetically mine. 4 years after leaving Seattle, I got a call that changed everything again. It was a Wednesday morning in late October. The leaves in Cambridge were that impossible gold that makes you stop and stare. I was walking to work, coffee in hand, when my phone rang. Portland area code. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Amelia? This is Sophie, Jasmine's wife. My heart jumped. Is she okay? She's fine. She's right here actually. But we wanted to call together because, well, we have news. I heard shuffling, then Jasmine's voice. Hey, sis. Hey, what's going on? You're scaring me. No. It's good news. Great news, actually. She paused. We're pregnant. I stopped walking. Right there on the sidewalk, people streaming past me. You're, what? Having a baby. Well, Sophie is carrying, but we're having a baby. In April. Jasmine. My voice cracked. That's incredible. I know. And I know we're still rebuilding things between us. And I don't expect anything, but we'd really like you to be involved. If you want to be. As an aunt, something in my chest unfurled, something I hadn't realized I'd been holding tight. I would love that. Yeah? Yeah, really. Sophie got back on the phone. We were also wondering, and you can say no. This is a lot. But would you consider being at the birth? In the room? Jasmine wants you there. I looked up at the gold leaves, at the blue sky, at this life I'd built from scratch. I'll be there, I said, that Christmas. I flew to Portland, not out of obligation or guilt, but because I wanted to. My parents' new place in Arizona had fallen through Dad's health, made the heat inadvisable, so they'd found a small house in Portland instead. When I arrived, Mom answered the door wearing an apron covered in flour. You're early. She looked flustered. I'm still making the pie. Need help? She blinked, surprised. You want to help? If you'll let me. We stood side by side in her kitchen, rolling out pie dough just like we used to when I was small. Before everything got complicated. Before I became the fixer and she became the enabler and Jasmine became the problem. I've been seeing Dr. Morrison for 2 years now, Mom said suddenly, not looking at me. She specializes in family systems therapy, codependency, all that. How's it going? Hard, really hard. Turns out I have to look at why I needed Jasmine to need me. Why I couldn't let her fail. She stopped, her hand stilling on the rolling pin. Why I was so threatened by your independence. I didn't say anything, just waited. You never needed me, she continued. Not the way Jasmine did. You figured things out on your own. And instead of being proud, I think I resented it. Made me feel unnecessary. So I clung harder to Jasmine because she made me feel needed. Mom, let me finish. She took a breath. What I did was unforgivable. Breaking into your house. Deciding you owed us your space, your peace, your life. I convinced myself it was about family. But really, it was about control. About not being able to handle that you didn't need me anymore. She finally looked at me, and her eyes were red. I'm sorry, Amelia. I'm so deeply sorry. And I don't expect you to forgive me. But I need you to know I see it now. What I did. What I put you through. I set down my rolling pin and hugged her. She felt small in my arms. Fragile in a way that had nothing to do with age. I'm working on forgiving you, I said. It's a process. That's more than I deserve. Maybe. But it's what I'm choosing. That night at dinner, all of us together, Mom, Dad, Jasmine, Sophie, and me, felt surreal. Dad carved the turkey with shaking hands. His health still precarious but improving. Jasmine and Sophie glowed with that particular radiance of early pregnancy. Mom kept jumping up to get things, nervous, trying too hard. And I sat there, watching them, and realized something. They weren't the enemy. They'd never been the enemy. They were just broken people doing the best they could with the tools they had. And sometimes their best had hurt me. And I'd had to leave to save myself. But leaving hadn't destroyed us. It had forced us all to grow. I want to propose a toast, Dad said, standing shakily, to Amelia, who had the courage to do what none of us could, walk away. And to teach us that love without boundaries isn't love at all. Here, Jasmine said, raising her glass of sparkling cider. We clinked glasses, and for the first time in my adult life, sitting at a table with my family felt like coming home instead of entering a battlefield. In April, I got the call at 2 a.m. It's time, Sophie said, breathless. We're heading to the hospital. I'd been packed for a week. I grabbed my bag and caught the first flight out. Labor lasted 19 hours. I sat in that hospital room with Jasmine and Sophie, holding hands, breathing through contractions, watching something miraculous and terrifying unfold. When the baby finally came, a girl, screaming and perfect, Jasmine looked at me with tears streaming down her face. Do you want to hold her? I took that tiny, warm bundle in my arms. She had Jasmine's nose, Sophie's chin, eyes that couldn't quite focus but seemed to look right into me. Hi, little one, I whispered. I'm your Aunt Amelia. We named her Hope, Jasmine said softly. Hope Margaret Chen Rivera. Margaret, after our mother. It's perfect, I said, and holding that baby, I understood something profound. You can walk away from toxicity and still choose love. You can set boundaries and still show up. You can protect yourself and still be present. The two things aren't mutually exclusive. They're both necessary. 6 months later, I made another decision. I was 37 now. I'd been at the nonprofit for 3 years. We'd grown from serving 50 kids to serving 500. I'd built something real, something meaningful, but I'd also been having conversations with some of the other directors about sustainability, about burnout, about the future. One Tuesday afternoon, I sat in Diane's office. I've been thinking about starting my own consulting firm, I said, helping other nonprofits with their design and branding, building systems that last. Diane smiled. I was wondering when you'd say that. You were. Amelia, you've outgrown this place. Not in a bad way, you've given us incredible structure. But you're ready for the next thing. And we're stable enough now to let you go. Within 3 months, I'd launched Chen Creative Consulting. Small at first, just me and a part-time assistant. But within a year, we had 12 clients. Within 2 years, I'd hired a team of 5. I was building something, again, from scratch, on my own terms. When I was 39, something unexpected happened. I met someone. His name was David. He taught literature at Tufts. We met at a bookstore event. I was there to support a client. He was there for a colleague's reading. We started talking about design and storytelling and didn't stop for 3 hours. He asked me to dinner. I almost said no, I'd gotten so comfortable being alone, being self-sufficient. But something made me say yes. On our third date, over Thai food in Central Square, he asked about my family. I told him the truth. All of it. The house, the betrayal, the escape, the slow rebuilding. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. That must have been incredibly hard, he said finally. Walking away like that. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. But you did it. And you came out the other side. He reached across the table, took my hand. That's remarkable, Amelia. You're remarkable. I'd had people say nice things about me before, but somehow, hearing it from him, this man who barely knew me, who had no agenda, who was just seeing me clearly, made me cry right there in the restaurant. Hey. He squeezed my hand. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. I think that's what's overwhelming me. He smiled. Want to get out of here? Walk by the river? We walked for hours that night, and I found myself telling him things I'd never told anyone, not Dr. Rosen, not Maya, not even myself, about how lonely I'd been before I left, about how I'd felt invisible in my own family, about how I'd built this beautiful life but sometimes still woke up in the middle of the night wondering if I'd made the right choice. You did, he said. Make the right choice, I mean. You chose yourself. That's never wrong. 6 months later, he moved into my brownstone. Not because I needed him to, not because I couldn't afford it alone, but because I wanted to share my space with someone who saw me, valued me, respected me. It felt revolutionary. On my 40th birthday, I threw a party. Not a small gathering, a real party. 50 people crammed into my house and spilling into the garden. Friends from work, from the nonprofit, from the neighborhood. Clients who'd become friends. Maya and Alex with their twin daughters. Dr. Rosen, who'd become more mentor than therapist. And my family. Mom and Dad, older now but steadier. Jasmine and Sophie with 3-year-old Hope, who called me Auntie Mimi and demanded to be picked up the moment she saw me. Even David's parents, who'd flown in from Ohio. Jasmine found me in the kitchen, refilling ice. This is some party, she said. Yeah, I wanted to celebrate. Actually celebrate. Not just mark another year passing. You should celebrate. Look at everything you've built. This house, your business, your relationship, your community. She paused. Your boundaries. I looked at her. Really looked. She was 35 now, 5 years sober, a devoted parent and partner. Still working retail but taking online classes toward a degree. Still in therapy. Still showing up. I'm proud of you, I said. Her eyes filled. Yeah? Yeah. You did the work, Jasmine. The hard work. You didn't just survive, you actually changed. I had to. Hitting rock bottom will do that. She laughed, but it was wet. You know what's funny? I spent so many years resenting you for being the successful one, the put-together one. But now I realize you weren't put together, you were just surviving differently. We were both drowning. You just found the shore first, and you found it too. Yeah, I did. Thanks to you showing me it was possible. We hugged, and it felt real. Not performative, not obligatory. Just two sisters who'd found their way back to each other through completely separate journeys. Later that night, after everyone had left and David was loading the dishwasher, I stood in my garden under the stars. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Thank you for inviting us. It means more than you know. Happy birthday, sweetheart. I'm so proud of the woman you've become. Then Dad. 40 looks good on you, kiddo. Love you. Then Jasmine. Best party ever. Hope wants to know when she can have a sleepover at Auntie Mimi's house. No pressure. Boundaries, remember? I smiled, tears running down my face. David came out, handed me a glass of wine. You okay? I'm more than okay. He wrapped his arms around me from behind. We stood there in the quiet, in the garden of the house I'd chosen, surrounded by the life I'd built. What are you thinking about? He asked, about how 5 years ago, my parents handed my sister the keys to my house, and I'd already sold it. Best decision you ever made. Yeah, but you know what? It wasn't about the house. It was never about the house. What was it about? I turned to face him. It was about claiming ownership of my own life. About deciding that my peace, my mental health, my happiness, they weren't negotiable. They weren't things I owed to anyone else. And now I get to choose who I share my life with. Not because I have to. Not because someone demands it. But because I want to. He kissed my forehead. I'm glad you chose me. Me too. The next morning, I woke up early. David was still asleep. I made coffee and sat in my reading nook, the one with the perfect light. The one I'd dreamed about when I was still in Seattle, trapped in a life that didn't fit. I opened my laptop and started writing. Not for work, not for clients, just for me. I wrote about the journey, about the house, about walking away, about rebuilding, about learning that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no, about discovering that freedom isn't selfish, it's sacred. I wrote for 2 hours, and when I finished, I read it back. It was my story, raw and real and mine. I thought about posting it somewhere, a blog maybe, or Medium, something that might reach other people who were trapped, who were drowning, who thought they owed everyone everything except themselves. But then I closed the laptop. Maybe someday I'd share it. Maybe someday it would help someone. But for now, it was enough that I'd written it, that I'd witnessed my own story, that I'd honored the girl I used to be and the woman I'd become. That afternoon, Hope came over for her first solo visit with Auntie Mimi. We made cookies, terrible, misshapen ones that she insisted on decorating with every color of frosting. We read books. We played in the garden. We had a tea party with her stuffed animals. And when Jasmine came to pick her up, Hope threw her arms around my legs. Can I come back tomorrow? Not tomorrow, sweetie, but soon. Promise? Promise. After they left, I found a drawing Hope had made on the kitchen table. Stick figures holding hands. She'd labeled them Mama, Mommy, Auntie Mimi. I taped it to my refrigerator. This was what I'd fought for. Not isolation, not loneliness, not a life without family, but a life where family was built on respect, on boundaries, on mutual care rather than obligation. A life where I could be an aunt without being a savior, a daughter without being a doormat, a sister without being a sacrifice. 5 years after selling the house, almost to the day, I drove back to Seattle. Not to stay, just to visit. David had a conference there, and I'd decided to join him, turn it into a long weekend. On our last day, I asked him to drive by my old street. Are you sure? He asked. Won't it be weird? Maybe, but I want to see it. We pulled up in front of the house. It looked different. They'd painted it a soft gray instead of the blue I'd chosen. There was a swing set in the yard now, a basketball hoop, chalk drawings on the driveway. As we sat there, the front door opened. Jennifer, I recognized her immediately, came out with a little boy, maybe 3 or 4. He had a bike with training wheels. She saw me staring and waved tentatively. I got out of the car, walked up the driveway. Jennifer, I don't know if you remember me, Amelia. Of course I remember you. You sold us this house. I did. How have you been? How's the house? Her face lit up. It's been perfect. We've been so happy here. This is Liam. She gestured to the boy, who was circling us on his bike. And we have a daughter now too, Emma. She's napping inside. I'm so glad. I really am. Would you like to come in? See what we've done with the place? I looked back at David, who nodded encouragingly. Yeah, I'd like that. Walking through that house was surreal. They'd kept the hardwood floors I'd refinished, but everything else was different. Kid-friendly furniture, family photos everywhere, a warmth and life I'd never quite managed to create there. We love it here, Jennifer said. This house, it's given us everything. I know that sounds dramatic, but it's true. It's where we became a family. I felt tears prick my eyes. That's exactly what I hoped would happen. Can I ask you something? She looked at me curiously. Your realtor mentioned there was some family drama around the sale. I hope everything worked out okay? I smiled. It did. It took time, but it did. Selling this house was the best decision I ever made. For us too, she said, laughing. Best thing we ever bought. As we left, I turned back one more time. The house stood there, solid and beautiful, filled with other people's dreams now, and I felt nothing but peace. I'm Amelia. I'm 40 years old now. I live in Cambridge in a brownstone I chose. I run a successful consulting firm I built from scratch. I have a partner who sees me, values me, respects me. I have friends who chose me and whom I chose back. I have a sister I'm rebuilding a relationship with slowly, carefully, on new terms. I have a niece who draws pictures of me as part of her family. I have parents who are trying, who are learning, who finally see me. And most importantly, I have myself. 5 years ago, my parents handed my sister the keys to my house, but I'd already sold it. And in doing so, I bought my freedom, my peace, my life. Not the life anyone else planned for me. Not the life I was supposed to want, but the life I actually wanted. The life I chose. The life I built with my own hands. One boundary at a time. If you're reading this, if you see yourself in this story, I want you to know something. You're allowed to sell the house. Metaphorically or literally. You're allowed to walk away from expectations that are crushing you. You're allowed to choose yourself, even when it disappoints people. Especially when it disappoints people who've never considered your needs. It won't be easy. It will hurt. You'll question yourself 1,000 times, but on the other side of that hard choice is something precious. The chance to build a life that's actually yours, and that chance, it's worth everything.